Well, good evening to you, Grenada, Carriacou, Petite Martinique. It is Wednesday evening. It's the 20th day of the month of April. And welcome to another episode, another edition of Election Watch. It's a platform where we invite the movers and shakers, and we discuss the issues and try to get a sense as to how they affect you and get you to appreciate what's happening in this electoral sphere. My guest this evening, joining us remotely out of North America, and Denison, Forrester, George, and he's an independent candidate for St. Andrew Northeast. I want to say thank you, Denison, and welcome to the program. Live with me in studio is an old-time friend, former colleague of mine in my previous life, in case you are wondering. And he's a former chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Vincent Roberts. Vincent Roberts, good evening and welcome to the program. How are you, sir?
Good evening, Joseph. It's a pleasure to be here, and good evening to Denison as well as to your listening audience.
Gentlemen, time is fast spent, and we are not going to roll dices or take a look and turns into discussing and starting this conversation. But I'm going to kickstart it with you, Denison. You pride yourself of saying you're from the Republic of Paraclete. Born in Grenada, spent a greater part of your adult life in North America, and now you've opted and vested the next dimension of your life into the political arena. Why though?
Let me just say pleasant evening to you, Joe. Don't go too hard on me tonight. I'm currently battling COVID for the second time. The last couple of days has been really, really tough. It's my second bout with COVID. Let me just also extend my condolences to the Samuel family of Guab. I think they lost their daughter Keisha today. So I wanted to get that in. But I'm going to do my best I can, Joe. Just don't be too hard on me tonight.
I won't promise you that, though, but we'll see. Why, though? Why the political arena? Are you a musician by profession, artist? You are a lawyer by profession. You live what many would say it's the good life in North America. Why the interest here locally to want to get into the political ring?
Well, I've always made the statement that Grenada is no longer 6 parishes, including Carriacou and Petite Martinique. Grenada today is New York, Grenada is Toronto, Grenada is London, Trinidad and Tobago. I believe in New York alone we have 3 times more people of Grenadians living here in New York than living in Grenada. We all, as Grenadians in the diaspora, have a vested interest in Grenada, and we participate in Grenada economically, socially, culturally. And we have a big part to play in the development of Grenada. Now, I grew up in New York since I was a young child, but I know Grenada is my home and in my place of birth. And most of us people in the diaspora, we all have intention of returning to Grenada one day. And I have always made the argument to my friends that if we don't invest in Grenada today, if we don't invest in the young people in Grenada today, then we have no right to complain when we return to Grenada 10 years, 20 years from now. So it's in all of us best interest as Grenadians in the diaspora to make sure that we invest in our country. Grenada is our home, and we have a stake in this to make sure that the country it progresses, the country develops, and the young people, especially the young people. I always tell people I believe in the young people in Grenada. I've done whatever I can to help culturally, in terms of my philanthropy work in Grenada. Because I always said, if I fall in Grenville one day, 20 years from now, maybe one of the little children, one of the little child that I help would be able to pick me up. So we have a vested stake in what's happening in Grenada, and that is what is driving me. I'm passionate about helping Grenada develop, helping the young people in Grenada, and doing what I can to see my country go forward.
But there are those who say, Denison, I mean, this is just merely lip service to you in the context that you're in the diaspora, you come for periodically for whatever length of time. You don't have a real appreciation for the issues on the ground, the bread and butter issues that affects us here on this piece of rock.
Well, I would counter that because I'm a taxpayer in Grenada. I own property in Grenada. I'm a born Grenadian. Let me tell you something, Joe. My blood comes from the soil of Paraclete and Hermitage. If you take a study around Grenada, 8 out of every 10 cocoa tree that may be planted in Grenada was planted by my father. My father is one of the biggest farmer in Grenada, Forrester. So it's not that people say you come from abroad and you come. I don't buy into that, that ideology, because you know what, Joe? I have a friend that works in one of the banks home, and she told me recently, she said, you know what, 8 out of every 10 loan application that was processed in the bank last month was from Grenadians abroad. We have a vested stake in Grenada. Okay, we play a vital role. Grenadians in the diaspora plays a vital role in the development and the economy of Grenada. I'm sure if a study is done in terms of remittance, money that goes from the diaspora back to Grenada, maybe it might equal GDP of the country. So, I'm a taxpayer of Grenada. I'm a Grenadian citizen, and I've never look at myself as a foreigner. Since I was a musician, and you have to bear with me a little bit, because of the COVID, a little bit. When I was a musician and I go on tour, every part of the world I go, I flew the Grenada flag. I was always known as a Grenadian reggae artist. And I've always done my best in terms of philanthropy to give back to Grenada, in terms of medical equipments to the hospital, in terms of donation to Cadore home, in terms of the Methodist school. Recently, I'm not sure if you're aware of that case that I brought here in the U.S. to make sure that criminal who went to Grenada and violated a child, I brought that case back here to the U.S. and took that case to the FBI, the U.S. authorities, and make sure that young man is prosecuted for the crime he committed against a Grenadian child. I have a vested stake and interest in Grenada.
Okay. So I think it is fair to say we'll assume that you have your feet on the ground. Vincent, you've heard the man, and I'm going to ask you, even before we get into you, in terms of your conversation that you would bring to the fore as the former chairman of the National Democratic Congress. Your thoughts, though. You keep hearing the conversation not just from Mr. Forrester, but from individuals in the diaspora, that they have a vested interest. And do you often get the sense that those of us that here at home, that we really appreciate and understand sometimes the role, the relationship between what's happening in the diaspora and what's happening here?
No, I don't think that we really appreciate the contribution that the Grenadians in the diaspora is making. And I think a lot more can be done. Unfortunately, for example, our Constitution says that citizens of the Commonwealth can sit in our parliament, but a Grenadian who happens to become a citizen of the US and has his benefits has to surrender that citizenship in order to sit in our parliament. I think that the Grenadians in the diaspora, as Denison and many others, they are as much Grenadian as any one of us. And especially today, with the global village concept, they're even more in touch than many of us are. Because they listen to the news, they participate, they influence. You know, they contribute, as Denison said, they pay taxes, and we embrace, the National Democratic Congress embraces the concept of Grenadians being, you know, entitled to participate regardless of where you live. I mean, you know, we welcome the entry, the participation, the involvement of every Grenadian, whether you're in the local parishes or in the diaspora.
Well said on that, but there is that school of thought that seems to think, and I'm going to get Denison to share his thoughts on that though, where there's a school of thought that seems to suggest that there's just two prevailing established political organizations, and everyone that falls outside of that is just, as they say, it's just on for a ride and should not be taken seriously.
I disagree. Now, the concept of democracy allows anyone who wants to influence the direction of our nation to participate. And remember that our Constitution does not speak of a political party. You speak of representatives of the people from the various constituencies. Now, in Parliament, it is the person who has the support of the largest number of representatives who becomes the leader, the Prime Minister, you see? So any individual, what we can look at though, is the pattern throughout history has shown that independent candidates tend not to perform very well. And this may be because of the way Grenadians see it, that, you know, we prefer to have somebody who is aligned to a specific grouping. We speak of the political party. Mm-hmm. So the trend, the pattern, the history shows that people tend to go for one of the established political parties. However, it is a right, it is an opportunity for people to make their contribution, show their dissatisfaction with the direction the country is going, or with the existing candidates, and offer themselves. You know, it's a fair game.
Denison, do you think there's a time for change? That culture that we've had, that speaks to you must be part of our established political fray. Do you think, we keep hearing that term being bandied about, a time for change. We keep hearing about representation. What are you saying to the Grenadian public that you are offering to the people of Northeast St. Andrew that is so dynamically, that's so different, that they should listen to the man, Denison Forrester George?
First of all, my response to that question is that over the last few decades, our people, our Grenadian people, have become too bogged down in ideology politics. They get too hype on party politics and not on country first. You know, Grenada, the well-being of Grenada should always be first. But people today, the politician, you know, I'm not sure what language to use, but they get the people hype, so hype on party, and then they go into office and they get nothing done. Because everyone forget it's not about NNP, it's not about NDC, it's about Grenada. You understand? Mm-hmm. And first, let me premise my response by saying that some of the proposal that I'm going to propose here should be taken for consideration. Okay, but some of my proposal is not based on data driven, because I don't have the data in front of me. The data has never been produced. But first of all, the way I'm different, my focus is on improving the lives of my people in Grenada and creating a better atmosphere for young people to strive in Grenada. What I've realized over the last few decades, the last few years, whole people love their country and they love their government, but the government does not love whole people. We would do everything in Grenada to build a 5-star hotel, because wealthy people come there. Foreigners come there, but we will do nothing to build a new hospital, because you know what? It's poor people going into that hospital. When the wealthy people in St. George's and throughout Grenada sick, they get on the next flight and they fly to the US and they fly to Canada and they fly to England because they could afford to. Now, you have programs in Grenada for young people. You have the Imani program. You know, you have other programs for people, young kids in Grenada. They go to T.A. Marisho College, they go to St. George's University, and they graduate. And they get into the Imani program, But when you look again at the wealthier folks, you would be surprised how much of them children not even born in Grenada. Some of these wealthy folks go abroad and have children. And when their kids finish T.A. Marisho College or St. George's University, they go away to the US. They go away to Canada. They go away to England to study and to find jobs. So I am saying you are not hearing politicians talking about these things because it's going to cost them vote. I'm not beholden to no one. So no one is going to hold me hostage. And I'm going to call it as I see it. We need a change in Grenada in terms of politics and in terms of policies, especially policies.
Change in
no
politics,
longer stay on the status quo.
Change in policies. Hold that thought right there. Vincent, change in politics, change in policies.
Yeah.
And it can be used, is bandied about quite loosely.
Yeah.
But there is a seeming new dispensation. As you look at as the NDC positions itself to gain the rights of passage via the will of the people to rule, to be at the administrative position here in Grenada. The National Democratic Congress as a party, what can you say to the people? Because as Denison says, it has almost been a culture of the same rhetoric.
Yeah.
Why should anybody then make the decision, you know what, that I need to take the National Democratic Congress seriously when they're all just the same?
Right, very interesting position, and the evidence is right before us today. We have seen the National Democratic Congress being transformed by the election of Deacon Mitchell as the party leader in October. 6 months after, and the party has been totally transformed. We are now presenting 15 candidates, 15 strong candidates, ranging from retired, as in the case of Lennox Andrew, he's a retired public servant, to our young Karine James in St. John, Ron Redhead, St. George Northeast, Tevin and Carriacou. Our party has a young, vibrant, non-traditional politician. Because he is a politician, he is serving, a politician who is a servant leader. Our party has been transformed, and what we are trying to do is to transform our nation. What Denison said is true, that the traditional politics, people get tired of that. And this is why the new leadership of the NDC has been so warmly embraced with new concepts, new policies, you see, to fit today, focusing on poverty eradication, the elimination of hunger, education, relevant education.
What hunger are you talking about, Vincent?
Joe,
are there hungry people in Grenada, honestly?
Joe,
quite honestly?
I know you're asking that question to pull out the information. The level of poverty in Grenada is appalling. It is appalling. We see people who are so poor, their children who in the last 2 years of COVID have not attended school and have not had the privilege of touching an electronic device. Their children, and anybody to challenge, I mean, I wouldn't give them the name, but I can send them. You can see it. I can provide it to the relevant authorities if they want to address it. There are children who skip school in St. George, in the parish of St. George's, in the parish of St. David, in the parish of St. John, throughout our country. There's an appalling level of poverty, which the leader of the National Democratic Congress, he has spoken to the party. The elimination of poverty is one of the key drivers right now.
That change, you talk about that youthful, that resurgence of the NDC,
Yeah.
the youthful vibe.
Yeah.
Is that in response to what the people wants, or is that this is just the NDC as part of its political maneuvering that's just doing what it has to do to get into power? Or is it that the people are literally saying, and you're hearing them saying, we want change? Is that what's really happening?
The people rejected the NDC in 2013 and 2018. The people said they wanted the NDC to change. I was chairman of the party. I resigned to give someone else an opportunity to bring new ideas to the table. Mm-hmm. And I warmly embraced, as many of us from the, if you want to call it the old NDC, we warmly embraced this change which came with the new leadership. New ideas, new concepts, a new way of doing things.
What are some of those new ideas?
First of all, the need to transform Grenada, and that the guiding principle should be self-reliance. The fact that we have been too dependent on foreign influence, foreign investment. There are many Grenadians, again, like Denison and many others in the diaspora, as well as Grenadians locally, who want a stake in the economy, who want to do more, but do not feel as appreciated, do not feel that they have the opportunities, do not feel that they have the bricks that the foreigner has. So the new drive is to transform Grenada using the guiding principle of self-reliance, to lift ourselves by our bootstraps, if you want to call it that, to focus on giving opportunities to our people in the field of education. Our leader has said that no Grenadian wanting to advance in education should be deprived because of economic limitations.
And I hear that, Vincent, and I would ask Denison to chime in. But very often it sounds almost like political rhetoric. When we look at where we are as a small budding economy, with limited or no resources, we have to ask ourselves the question, is it that we are being overpromised? And that seems to have been the culture in the past, where politicians promise us a piece of the moon, but we don't know, we ain't getting there. So I prefer just to stay where I am and suck salt, drink water, mind my business. Why bother with anything? I know what I have. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, this is an argument that people who want to embrace what is existing, the status quo, would put forward. But any genuine Grenadian looking at the way forward would realize that 50 years after independence, because 48 is almost 50, what has really changed in terms of the economic position of most of our people? Poverty has increased. And when you look at poverty, poverty is classified as people earning less than $600 a month. People earning $1,200 are poor in Grenada because of the high cost of living. Yeah? People throughout Grenada still using pit latrine in the parish of St. George. You know? We have not really addressed the people's health. Right now, any Grenadian getting afflicted by some illness is a donor sheet approach to healthcare. We're in 2022, and Grenadians who are afflicted by illness are dying, and no special fund has been set up. We keep hearing about national health insurance. No serious approach has been taken. Denison spoke about the need for a hospital. The previous NDC signed an agreement with SGU to build a new hospital. The documents are there, you know? These things is not just empty promises.
So with that being said, having listened to Vincent,
yeah.
Vincent talked, Denison, about the issue of poverty. Are those challenges faced by people in the communities in the northeast of St. Andrew?
But my brother, to be honest with you, I participated in building a home for a family in Simoon, in a place called Baghdad. And I was shocked when I went down in the back of Simoon, where the old Simoon pavilion was. I was shocked to see the conditions that people in that area was living under.
But those are just isolated people, Denison, isn't it?
Yeah, but they are Grenadians. You can't say they're isolated, they are Grenadians. Now, if you go to the back of Pearls, there is so much poor people there, you would never believe people in Grenada are living under these conditions. Now listen, we have to be honest. There is two Grenada. There is Grenada for the have and Grenada for the have-not. There is Grenada for the well-connected, and there is Grenada for people who have no connection. Now, I am not going to take the approach that NDC is taking and criticizing everything. It's about solution. It's about solution, how we're going to fix this. What has happened already happened. We can't change that. You know? We can't get caught up in politics alone, because you can't take, Grenada doesn't have two currencies. Grenada doesn't have a yellow currency and a green currency. We have $1. And the politicians are using the parties to blind the people from finding solution. We have to find solution for Grenada's problem. We have problem in healthcare. Okay? I'm proposing to fix our healthcare. We have a healthcare system that is based way back on the 70s and the 80s. While our population change in the way we live, in the way we eat.
But fix it how, Denison?
Well, let me just say how we're going to fix healthcare. First thing I'm going to propose, we have to change the way healthcare system is run in Grenada. The healthcare system is run like it was in the 70s and the 80s. Grenadians no longer live like my mother generation. They eat different type of food. They get sick more often. People used to walk more, so they get sick less. Now people don't walk as much. Now you have people eating KFC and these things every day. People are coming out more with diabetes and high blood pressure now than ever in Grenada's history. Now we have an epidemic of cancer in Grenada. There was a doctor here in New York at Kings County Hospital that wrote an op-ed piece in the Caribbean paper here in New York, and he said he's alarmed by the number of young Grenadian women showing up in New York City hospitals with cancer, and he wondered if the government of Grenada are aware that there is an epidemic of cancer. We have to modernize our healthcare system where it is focused on prevention, proper health, proper diet, exercising. You know, people, I did my little research, my brother, and what I've found is that people show up at the hospital when it's too late. Men show up when the prostate already cancerous, when the colon is already cancerous.
Yeah, but is that an indictment against the government? Or is that
no, I'm not talking about government. I'm not talking about government. I'm talking about societal change.
Okay.
I'm saying that we have to now listen, let's talk about the national health insurance. We need a national health insurance. Right now we have in Grenada where you have a consolidated fund paying for everyone that shows up in the hospital. What happened to the study that the University of the West Indies did years ago that shows all the positive effect of having a national insurance to cover people when they are not well? Now, this is not, my brother, I am not focusing on criticizing anyone. I'm focusing here tonight on what we could do to move Grenada forward. And that's what I'm focusing on.
The argument that we made, and I'm going to get to you, Vincent, as to whether or not an individual, because the reality is, if you enter the political arena as an independent candidate, let's assume you win your seat, you're representing Northeast. But it means to get anything done, because very often it comes down to, in the political fray, allegiance, Vincent, to party. And very often that seems to be the overarching issue here, where there's allegiance to party and not necessarily to the overall growth and development of the country.
Yeah. Well, I'll address that, but just to point out that what Denison is saying is not significantly different from what the NDC is saying. And we are saying that the approach to healthcare, the approach to health and wellness is similar to what he's saying. Now, in the 70s and 80s that you speak about, we had resident district medical officers. We are speaking about primary health care, making sure that from children in schools, from the pre-primary, go right through, are afforded opportunities not just for medical checks but for information on lifestyle changes which are necessary in order to remain healthy. The enjoying healthy exercising, the healthy food, and all of that. These are the same thing that we are speaking about, decentralization of healthcare, so that people in Carriacou and Petit Martinique can have dental services, for example. And you hear our leader, Deacon Mitchell, speaking about it, the fact that in Petit Martinique there's no dental care. In Carriacou,
nope.
You don't have a resident dentist. All we are saying is that our policies, and we are looking at these experiences to shape our policies and to inform the way forward. We are not crying about what went down the road and criticizing. Everybody in Grenada is aware of the existing situation. And we are saying that our current policies being drafted, being developed, being presented as the platform for our party going forward is based on current thinking, using the best information we have, the experts, and we're not studying what, to criticize anybody. I mean, what's existing, we know.
We're going to weigh in on some of the similarities, but we have to take a quick commercial break, though. My guest this evening, as we take a look under the political spotlight, former chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Vincent Roberts, and independent candidate for St. Andrew Northeast, Denison, Forrester George. We take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back on Election Watch.
Need your prescription filled, or you require non-prescribed medication, supplements, or all your personal needs, visit Gittins Healthcare at locations on Wall Street, Grandans, Victoria Street, Brandon, and Central Deputy Street, Wall. Gittins Healthcare aims to provide an exceptional personalized pharmacy experience. Additionally, children under 5 and adults 55 years and over will enjoy 10% discount on purchases of $20 and over on prescription medication. Stop settling for less. Visit Gittins Healthcare, where your health is our priority.
Imagine having the home of your dreams. Imagine investing in that piece of property you can call your own. Imagine finally doing that home improvement project you've always been thinking about. It's time to stop imagining and start doing. Let the GUT Credit Union help you take the first step with fantastic rates, affordable repayments, and reduced legal fees. Make the move. Get better terms on your mortgage. Use your home equity to make those dreams a reality. Act now. There's really no place like home. GUT Credit Union. It's where you belong.
Gittins Pharmacare, the pharmacy that cares. Halifax Street, St. George's. Affordable access to care, a wide range of prescription drugs, medical supplies, health and beauty items, diabetic testing supplies, immune system support products, vitamins, supplements, and lots more. Visit us today or call 440-2165. Ask about or call in prescriptions, discounted items, and special delivery requests. Gittins Pharmacare. Care, convenience, expertise. We've got it all.
Hey man, when we come online, you only juking up your phone.
Yeah boy, now as I say, they have an app. I can't find it. I check Play Store. I do a Google search. I can't find it. Man, I get fed up, man.
Nah man, because you look in the wrong place. The app is web-based.
Web-based?
Yes, you access it via your web browser, right? You can add it to your home screen or your desktop, like any regular app. Watch. Look, I have it on my phone, right? And you can access it or add it to any device, your computer, your tablet, any device.
Well, how am I doing that and I can't find it?
Okay, watch. All you have to do is open your browser, right, and type mobile.nawasa.gd, and voila, you see?
Just so?
Yes, and you can download it or access it via the web. Once you have a reliable internet connection, right, you can run the app anywhere, anytime.
So, how I adding that to my home screen?
Right, so you click on those three dots, right, or your web browser setting, and look for the option to install app or add to home screen. Easy peasy.
Well, thank you. Now I could help Auntie June because she was having the same problem too.
The Nawasa app, versatile, fast-paced, and always up to date because it's web-based. So Auntie June won't always have to install update. Once a change is made to the app, it updates automatically, no hassle.
Well, that's a good thing.
Mobile.nawasa.gd, your customer support companion.
Good evening, Grenada and Carriacou. Peter Martin, welcome back to the program Election Watch. I'm Joseph Cadore. My guest this evening, live in studio with me, is former chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Vincent Roberts, and independent candidate for St. Andrew Northeast, Denison, Forrester George. Gentlemen, we have issues, and we've clearly articulated that. Would it be a reasonable assessment if I ask you, starting with you, Denison, whether or not the NNP, given by virtue of having been in power, as we let's say we look from independence to now, for the greater part of more than 3 decades, have they failed us, Denison? Point blank. Is that a reasonable question to ask?
You put them in the middle of this situation. Let me just say this. Joe, I really want to focus on moving Grenada forward. Whether the NNP failed or succeed, that is in the past. They will be held accountable by the voters. The voters would have an opportunity to speak and to cast their indictment.
But let me say this to you, though, Denison. But if the voters, if nobody's bringing the issues to the fore as to whether or not they have failed or not, then people would continue to do the same thing over and over.
But listen, we could sit here tonight and talk about change all night, but I don't think Grenadian people, what I've observed, the Grenadian people want solution. The change the Grenadian people want is change in helping them pay their electric bill. The change the Grenadian people want is change in putting food on the table. Mm-hmm. The change the Grenadian people want is help to pay their bills, to provide a brighter future for their children, to provide job securities. The change they want is to rescue Grenadian young men who are drowning their life away in a bottle of rum. So I don't care. I think people home would vote. They're not focused on the messenger. Whoever could deliver change to the people in Grenada, that's who they would vote for. So it's up to the political parties to make the best argument and to demonstrate leadership, not by speaking. I saw in some of the comments, some people say he's saying the same thing NDC is saying, but I'm not providing lip service. I am articulating here a vision. We talked about healthcare. I understand we don't have the money to build new hospitals, but we could invest money in telemedicine. In telemedicine, you have a patient in Grenada who goes to the hospital in Grenada, and a doctor in the US could look at that patient and diagnose whatever is wrong with that patient. And then that person doesn't have to spend all their life savings to go to Trinidad, go to Barbados, or come to America for healthcare. Now the School of Medicine in Grenada provide the U.S. Medical Society with 12% of its doctors. Yet still we don't have doctors in Grenada. Why not develop a formula where the doctors or Grenadian doctors abroad could come to Grenada on their vacation and provide that service which they're under legal obligation to come back to Grenada and provide. Now, so I am providing, in my night, I want to talk about solutions on how we could move Grenada forward. Yes, there's little things I really think that one of the greatest mistakes the NNP made is that they never built a proper medical facility in Grenada. There is tons of Grenadians in the diaspora, I'm talking about, that want to come home. And when they come home, they bring in economic resources to Grenada. These are people who are senior citizens. They're going to create jobs because they would have to find people to care for them. And a lot of these people are stuck in foreign countries because there is not a proper healthcare system in Grenada that is viable and that is sustainable. So what I'm saying is that I am solution driven. And, you know, I listen to my brothers on the NDC side, and I'm hearing a lot of noise, but I'm not hearing no vision being articulated. And I think in order for when you're telling people you're going to bring change, you're not going to just criticize, you're going to have to articulate what change and how you're going to do it. And that's what I'm about. That's what differentiates me from the
Vincent,
other
he said he's hearing noise in the marketplace. But before you get into the apparent noise that he's hearing, would it be a fair enough assessment for anyone who buys into the position that Grenada, we've been handed a bounce check by our politicians, those who have served us for the greater part of the last 50 years, and now we're ready to cash it in and realizing, kapooch, nothing?
What I can tell you, Joe, is that in meeting people throughout Grenada, we are hearing the same talk about need for change. Not just changing NNP for NDC, but a radical change, a revolutionary change, if you want to use the word. In Grenada, because of our experience, people are afraid of the word. And what the NDC under the leadership of Deacon Mitchell is saying is that we're not going to just change for the sake of changing with the same old policies, but a radically new way of doing things in order to transform Grenada, to aspire, build, and advance as one people, to stop the division, as Denison says, yellow and green. We want to embrace an opportunity for all Grenadians, not based on which party you support, to get seed money. We think that these things should be handled by something like the NIS. You may need to change the legislation, but these social services should be handled by an independent, non-political organization such as the NIS. You know? Then we speak of policies. The old NDC, the NDC of 2008 to 2013, started to address the pension issue. It is something that we are committed to. We speak of poverty and the new poor, the public servants who are deprived of the pension and gratuity, falling into this new poverty, this new poor. We must halt this and follow the ruling of the court and pay the people their money, you know? And the National Democratic Congress is committed to these things, changing the way of doing things. Stop wasting state resources.
Is that something that we
have to shift? It must be a paradigm shift, not just change one party for the other, but a whole new way of doing things.
Denison?
Let me just say this. I made a proposal, and I said, if I am elected and a privilege to serve the people of St. Andrews Northeast, I would not be taking a salary. I would open a bank account in Grenville and make sure that my monthly salary goes into that account. You're talking about a politician earning almost $8,000 a month. That will be over $90,000 that will be going in that rainy day account. And if a child in my parish or in the surrounding area needs school books, that will be money there to help them. If someone have to pay for kidney dialysis, that will be a fund there to help them. So I'm proposing that I would not accept a salary, and any salary that comes to me would go back towards the people. Now let's talk about pension. Everybody's saying, and I heard pension. Listen, my plan, how we could pay this pension. It's so much, a huge amount of money that is owing to the pensioners. Yes, that money is owed to the pensioners. There is a lot of legal arguments that have to be litigated, for example, whether the estate of the pensioners who died are entitled to receive money. Now listen to my proposal. I think the government, the Treasury of Grenada have to, and this is just my proposal, it's up for debate and consideration. I think the Treasury would have to create a bond system. You would have 3 bond tier. You have a Treasury bond, okay, you have T-bills, and then you have a bond based on age. The elderly people, the elderly pensioners will be given a bond which will be mature at an earlier time. The people who could afford to wait a longer period of time would be given a bond. Remember what a bond is. A bond is an IOU from the government saying, I owe you, okay? We owe you that money. And I'm thinking that the younger folks who could afford it, the government would encourage them to hold on to the bonds, pass it on to their children and their grandchildren, and as it matures, it gains more interest.
But Denison, the argument is some people say, we don't trust them.
But listen, this is not about government.
No want a blank check.
Joe, this is everything is about government. This is not government. I'm talking about the Treasury of Grenada. This is what the problem in Grenada is. People are mixing up political party with government. Political parties are there to serve their followers. Government should be there to serve the people of the country. And when we get that right, Grenada would be right.
But while I agree with you, but as you have to accept the reality, the influence that politicians they do play, Vincent.
Yeah.
You can't separate that, can you?
You cannot separate it. It's the reality. The fact that our executive and our legislative are the same. The same people who sit in cabinet sit in parliament. You know, in theory, we have 3 branches of government, but in practice, it's really 2. You know, and I heard Denison speak about not taking salary and $8,000. It is unfortunate when we think that earning $8,000 or $9,000 is a lot. We must address this issue and create opportunities for young Grenadians to earn 8, 9, 10. There are Grenadians with the skill set which can bring them an earnings in excess of $10,000 a month.
Information technology, while you're the gentleman, are you thinking that we harnessing it, the potential that it...
The National Democratic Congress is looking at a program similar to what the revolution did with adult literacy, the CPE. Right now, a lot of people in Grenada hold a smart device, smartphone, but cannot maximize the use. There's an urgent need for basic digital literacy, intermediate and advanced. We have people lining up every day in front of Grenlec, Nawassa and so on to pay bills that they can sit at home and pay. Yeah? 1 is the technical ability and 2 is the confidence. It's confidence in the security of the systems. If we can educate the people, do an immediate digital literacy program to capitalize, and simultaneously we do a widespread, reliable, fast, affordable internet connection to your homes. With a device and a good internet connection and the proper training, one can earn significant sums at home. And this is, look, our population is 100,000. We're struggling with high unemployment. It is not rocket science to create opportunities in the private as well as the corporate sector, cooperative, meaning joint, private and public, to give people opportunities to earn.
Denison, is he making sense?
I heard what Vincent said about $8,000 is not a lot of money. $8,000 is a lot of money for Ann Fletcher, who has been cooking in the St. Andrews Methodist School for 28 years and earning less than $1,000 a month. $8,000 for a politician is a lot of money for Miss Matthews from Baltazar, who was a cook for 33 years at the RC school, making $200 and $800 a month, and retired today with no pension, no gratuity. $8,000 for a politician that served 2 terms in office and would retire with a pension and gratuity. I think it's a crime and an insult to the average Grenadian worker who sacrificed and served their country and retire after years with no pension, no gratuity, and making minimum wage less than $5 an hour.
We fully agree. We fully agree. It is appalling, it is unfortunate that we have people in 2022 experiencing these situations. This should never be happening. And this is what the National Democratic Congress is speaking about when we speak of transformation, transforming our country. We cannot continue having this taking place. Our people should be earning livable wages, and we're going to address the minimum wage so that people can earn livable wages.
But is it practical?
It is practical.
To ask, let's take the next few minutes, the practicality of it.
Yeah.
I mean, is it just a bunch of talk, bureaucratic, or can it really happen? We know what's happening on the international sphere, regionally. Can we really, as a people, is there really hope for us that we can say to our children, you know what, 10, 15 years from now, life will become better on this piece of rock that's called Grenada, Vincent?
Joe,
and I'm not talking about a political promise.
Yeah.
Is it really practical as we look forward?
It has to do with individuals and their character. It has to do with leadership and the commitment to the people. If you look at an example of Singapore, Singapore is twice the size of Grenada, 267 square miles, and 50 years ago was as poor as Grenada. Look at what happened, how they were transformed. It is not impossible. It is not impossible. The National Democratic Congress, under the leadership of Deacon Mitchell, can transform Grenada. We're not talking about just changing a party, but changing the way of doing things. Becoming more self-reliant. We can do it if given the opportunity. And what the National Democratic Congress is doing is we have put a group of 15 candidates together who can speak to the communities, the 15 constituencies, and let the people know that we are committed to change and improving the lives and livelihoods of the people, committed to better health care, committed to better education, and we're not speaking about just academic certificates and so on, relevant education. We are speaking of improved housing. The people Denison mentioned, making sure that they get their pensions, that they get livable wages. These anomalies, these unfortunate situations must be addressed.
Oh, last week in conversation, gentlemen, the question was asked whether or not, because most of which you speak of has to be hinged on the fact that, one, productivity must be, our people must be put to work. But the question is, are we at a place where our people are skilled enough that we can put them to work, that they can produce? Because what you asking, where we planning to take us, there is a huge economic toll. Do you think as a people we are ready to make the necessary sacrifices, Denison, so as to achieve the bigger picture? In economics, it's called the opportunity cost. That which must be given up in order to obtain the next best alternative. We keep hearing what the alternative is. What is the cost to it, though, Denison?
So you know what, and that's a reality. There's a lot of studies and programs that was created to help lift Grenada, but it seems like there is always a cost. And at the time these programs come to light, it's always come close. Like I say, the pension thing come close to election time. And the politicians always dance around it because how are we going to pay for it? Now let me say this to you. The International Monetary Fund did a study in Grenada in 2021, I think it was released, and they said Grenada must focus on that 4 areas in order to grow their economy. Tourism, agriculture, and renewable energy and skills training. I think if we invest in those 4 areas, first of all, we got to be making things. We shouldn't be picking mango in Grenada and send down to Trinidad package it and send it back to Grenada and our people buying it. We have mangoes spoiling in Grenada. We have soursop spoiling in Grenada. We have papaya. Yet still our people have to go to the supermarkets in St. George's and buy all that sugar water juice when they could be drinking natural stuff made in our country. We have to start investing. The government have to take the lead. That's what GDB Bank was created for, to invest in agriculture, to invest in small business. We have to start investing again in agriculture. We have to start making things, canning our mangoes, canning our fruit. In the US here, you get a pound of sapodilla for $15, and I see it spoiling in Grenada. But the problem is that there have to be vision, Joe. Where there is no vision, the people perish. I go to Grenada every time, and when you reach in St. George's, you watch up on that hill, you see that prison. It breaks my heart. The kids come out of GBSS, Anglican High School, you watch up, you see that prison. That prison is sitting on Grenada's best piece of real estate. Where is the wise men in Grenada to say, you know what, let's move that prison for there. Let's bring it in the interior, where there is land for prisoners to walk and grow fruits and food. The prison should be farming enough that they should be feeding the schools, the hospital, themselves, and even the market. But there is no vision. Where there is no vision, the people perish. So yes, if we invest in agriculture, if we invest in tourism, if we invest in skills, you have to give people skills. Listen to me carefully. We have to start thinking every secondary school in Grenada should be teaching coding, okay, and critical thinking. Grenada is one of the only countries in the world that don't have any courses in critical thinking. We have to invest in coding and programming every secondary school, and I would bring back handicrafts in every primary and secondary schools in Grenada. When schools were doing handicraft, young men in Grenada, when they finished secondary school or they finished primary school, they had a skill. We have to bring these things back in Grenada. We cannot go on that path. There have to be, as I say, vision. And so far, that is what is lacking, vision.
Vincent, where there is no vision, the people perish. Yeah. You have NDCs now touting themselves on having a youthful leader. Yeah. And we're talking about tomorrow. But very often there is the plan, very often the people are lied to as to how we get there, because it is often made to believe as though it's going to be a walk in the park. Do you think that has been one of the failures of the National Democratic Congress, and I'm calling it as it is because you're here, in not being able to articulate quite clearly, folks, we have a plan, we have a vision, but there's a road that needs to be traveled, and this is how we're going to get there. And it's not going to be as sleep and wake up tomorrow promise that we were told that there's going to be oil, and it hasn't happened. It
is said that one of the biggest weaknesses of the National Democratic Congress has been the ability to sell itself, the public relations part of it. The NDC has done phenomenal work, which people never know about. For example, you look at the rock, the thing holding up the rock in front of the tunnel, Constantine. You look at what's happening in St. Mark, the river project and so on. These are all projects which are designed and the funding obtained by the NDC. The NDC did quite a lot of stuff, but they don't sell themselves. But today, what I am seeing, and I'm speaking now as from the old NDC, what I am seeing, the NDC has been transformed. It is a totally new organization, a new animal, which is doing more, not just smoke and mirrors type of thing, but to sell a true picture of what is happening.
But should we be worried though, Vincent, because we know the NDC has always held itself to some core values: transparency, accountability, good governance. Should we be in any way be afraid that those values are being surrendered for this new frontier?
Not at all. The interesting thing is that the core values of the NDC, that thing which differentiates the NDC, accountability, transparency, and good governance, the party is still based on that and still adheres to it, speaking truth to the people. We don't try to win an election by coming with a set of lies and so on. we look at the truth and we tell the people, there'll be sacrifices to be made. We have to work harder. We have to produce more. We have to look at stimulating the economy, increasing the pay cycle, for example. Instead of paying once a month, looking at paying every 2 weeks. You know?
Is that a genuine conversation?
Of course it is.
That's been sought after?
Of course it is. It has been proven that when people get their pay twice a month, it helps to push the economy. This is a given fact.
Denison, do you like what you're hearing? Is that something that you would subscribe to as an independent candidate?
Yes, the bi-weekly payment system, that's what most states in the U.S. here does. Yeah, people get paid every 2 weeks, and it has been proven that it's more viable for the economy and more progressive in terms of economic, stimulating economic growth and economic activities when people get paid twice, and also it increased savings. Because if you have to wait 30 days to get paid, by the time you get paid, you usually use up all your resources, and then people get paid. You know, you more indulge to go into debt. But Joe, I just want to say this. Going back to this, there is a high unemployment situation in Grenada right now, and underemployment, and whichever government comes into power after the next election, that would have to be tackled immediately. We have a shortage of nurses in Grenada. I think that we could, serious quick training could help create some employment there. I believe in investment in young people. But we also have to, there is a lot of waste that have to be cut out. Now, let me just say this to you, and Joe, you may not like that. I know you like the Queen. We shouldn't be spending $300,000, $400,000 to prop up a governor general that does not work for Grenada. The governor general work for the Queen. Let the Queen pay her salary. Why should Grenada cough up hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to sustain somebody like the governor general who doesn't work for Grenada? The royal family is worth $85 billion. Now, this is an area we could move Grenada to a republic. England is not doing anything for us. Why should we continue to waste almost $1 million a year? So I'm saying they have to be budgetary constrained, and we have to, no example. We have a consulate here in New York. The Grenadian government is paying hundreds and tens of thousands of dollars to keep that consulate in Manhattan, on one of the wealthiest streets in Manhattan, 2nd Avenue. Your consulate is supposed to be the place where you serve your citizens. That consulate should be in Brooklyn, because 90% of Grenadians live in Brooklyn. That's a waste of taxpayers' money. And you'll find the same thing in London and the same thing in Toronto. So I'm just saying is that, yes, the money is tight in Grenada. I understand that. We don't have gold. We don't have oil as yet. But we have to be able to find the resources to help lift poor people out of poverty.
Oil is yet, Denison. Are you still holding on to that?
Joe?
Are you still holding on to that cherry cake story I would find in oil?
Well, listen to me. I think if Trinidad have oil, we have to have oil. I honestly believe if Trinidad have oil. The thing is that if Trinidad has oil, we have to have oil. The thing is that whether we're willing to destroy our beautiful, pristine white beaches for oil money. But the thing is that, Joe, and the cost might be too much. Now let's talk about, we didn't talk about the oil.
What I can know, and I remember that on the eve of the election, the last election, there was a pronouncement that was made at a particular geographic location. Hello, the Hail Mary is here. And now, literally almost 3, 4, 5 years later, we had a different conversation. I mean, that in itself is a conversation that we don't even want to get into tonight. I'm not even sure we should really be talking to our Grenadian people.
It will be a wonderful thing if we discover oil. Now, we have a problem in Grenada with energy. And as you know, energy used up a big part of the normal man's budget. So we have to focus also on renewable energy, as the International Monetary Fund said. I mean, people in Grenada are paying $500, $600, $300 a month in light bill. So, there is a lot of areas that we have to tackle. But as I say, Joe, As a country, we have to think big. We become too much of the so-so, that's okay, we're getting by.
Well, we have to think big, but it has to be objective, though, Vincent. Or do we just, you throw a Hail Mary and everybody buys into it?
I think that, Denison, you need to really have a conversation with the NDC. I have not heard anything really substantially different which in your position and what the NDC is saying. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to...
Vincent, Joe, what I'm saying, think big. Yes, we have to address the problem with unemployment immediately, where we could young people back to work. But we should, take for example, Joe, look at St. George's. St. George's, it's hundreds of years old. St. George's has made its time. I think it's time that Grenada should start focusing on building a new capital in St. David's. It might take us 50 years, but let's break grounds. Let's put our young, brilliant mind at T.A. Mary Show and St. George's University to work. But what I'm saying, we're going to do the small things. Right. But we could also focus on doing, it would be wonderful for the government to say, you know what, St. George's is now a postcard. We're going to build a new financial capital in St. David's on the waterfront. It might take 50 years, Joe, but it's something to look forward to.
You have to start somewhere.
Right now, the focus have to be on providing jobs, employment for young people, and opportunity for young people. Because I'm telling you, Joe, if I'll be honest with you, I'm going to be honest with you, Joe. If nothing changed, my advice to young people and poor people, children, get out of Grenada. Go abroad, get out of Grenada, go abroad, get your education, get your skills, and come back to Grenada when you become successful. Look at all the politicians that are leading you. 90% of them went abroad and make their money and come back. And now they're telling you to stay in Grenada. If they don't change things to improve your life, poor people, take your children and send them abroad to get opportunities and a better life.
You going? I'm like, well, maybe something to consider. Thank you, Denison. Vincent, any last few words from you?
Well, I beg to differ on that point. I think we should encourage our Grenadians to stay at home and build Grenada. This is our country. This is our piece of rock, and every Grenadian wants to own piece of it. We have to make sure that they can afford it and that it's available, that we protect our environment and create opportunities for our people to become more economically stable, to create wealth, to increase prosperity, to bring an end to the poverty that Denison speak about, to eradicate hunger, and to transform our nation together as one people. As our anthem says, to aspire, build, and advance as one people, moving forward to a better Grenada with the National Democratic Congress.
Well, that's what
Joe, let me just say this before I go. I agree with everything Vincent said, but we have to be honest. The playing field in Grenada is not even. It's
Let's
not
make
even
it even.
for Grenadian.
Well, as you said, we need it has to start somewhere.
And we must have a conversation with you, Denison. I think you have some brilliant ideas, and we can work together and make it happen. This is an opportunity for Grenada.
Indeed, we can make it if we try just a little bit harder.
Yes.
And certainly, gentlemen, time waits on no man, and unfortunately, we have to wrap the conversation for this evening, just for this evening.
Yeah.
But certainly, I can promise you here at the GBN, there's a platform. We're going to continue to agitate the issues as bringing it right here as we go into election watch. The question is, what are the issues that are affecting you, the people? And very often, that's a conversation that must be had quite objectively. Where do you see yourself, Grenada? Where do you see your children, your children's children, 30 years from now? Are you satisfied with the standard of living? Are you satisfied with where you were yesterday, where you are now, and where you intend to be tomorrow? That's where we leave the conversation today. But next week, we'll delve into it more on Election Watch. Thanks to my guests, former chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Vincent Roberts, and the independent candidate for St. Andrews Northeast, Denison Andrew. My dear sirs, thank you for being part of the conversation. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When a loved one passes on,